were tactically necessary.
And as I say, it remains to be seen whether they're going to still attempt to justify what took place.
When the male riot squad moved in on the prison for women last April, it was to put down a disturbance. But now it's the prison system that's in turmoil. Anton Kashani, CTV News, Kingston.
Finance Minister Paul Martin produced the date we've been waiting for today, next Monday. That's when he'll bring down a new budget telling us whose job is out the window, where Ottawa will cut spending, and whether we'll all be paying more in taxes. And Martin got more budget advice today. This time, in a highly unusual move, the Reform Party laid out its plans for a budget. But they didn't go over well with the government. Roger Smith has more.
Set aside, it is my pleasure to announce that the budget will be presented Monday, the 27th of February.
Paul Martin ended speculation about a date, but not the jockeying over content.
To change your target to deficit elimination rather than deficit reduction.
Preston Manning fears the Liberals won't chop deep enough to satisfy financial markets, so he played finance minister to show them how. Reform's budget aims to eliminate the deficit in 3 years, with no tax increases, just spending cuts.
Surely it's possible to reduce public spending by $25 billion, or about 1% of GDP per year, without causing some great crisis.
The cuts would include $15 billion from social programs like unemployment insurance, welfare, and pensions.
It's based on the assumption that you have to build on the Canadian tradition of self-reliance and recognize the family as the primary caregiver in society, not the government program.
Manning called it a measuring stick for the real budget, but the Liberals used it as a club to strike back.
Where lies the compassion?
Martin dismissed the proposals as simplistic, unrealistic, and unfair to pensioners and the poor.
They are really hurting an awful lot of people who are really not able to absorb the blow. And second, they don't attain their objective.
But nothing could be further from the truth, and that tactic used by the government, in our judgment, is simply a diversion.
A welcome diversion for the Liberals, though, because it may help deflect criticism from their real budget next Monday. With reform prescriptions already on the table, Paul Martin hopes his own tough medicine will seem a little easier to swallow. Roger Smith, CTV News, Ottawa.
The government is already facing an angry fight over the budget. Its largest union, the Public Service Alliance, says Ottawa is on a collision course with its own employees. The union is outraged over an announcement today that the budget will overrule an agreement on job security. That will clear the way for tens of thousands of job cuts. The story from Ottawa Bureau Chief Craig Oliver.
The Liberal government is firing the opening salvo in its war on the deficit with its decision to wipe out job security guarantees for federal public servants.
We can't continue paying people if there is no work for them. We must reduce the deficit, and to do so, we must cut our expenditures.
Confrontation is now inevitable.
To end a disruptive strike in 1991, the former Conservative government granted layoff protection to civil servants. The leader of the country's biggest public service union, who made that deal, accuses the Liberals of turning their backs on campaign promises they made to protect government workers.
I believe we are witnessing the beginning of the dismantling of the federal government as an effective force in the lives of Canadians.
I'm feeling tremendously emotional.
Liberal MPs from Ottawa who showed up at an evening public meeting on budget cuts got a rough going over from a union member in the audience.
You lie through your teeth, both of you. You've told us things, you courted us, and then when you get into power, you screw us. And we're sick of that. And we're sick of electoral politics for a damn good reason.
You have absolutely no class, no respect whatsoever, not to your prime minister, and not to your government, and not to your elected official.
But the mood of at least one other was more resignation than anger.
If a choice had to be made between budgetary health for this country and my personal job, I think it is actually the responsibility of the politicians to choose the health of the country.
Eventually, it's expected that 20% of the whole federal public service, as many as 45,000 jobs, may be cut. Craig Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
New Brunswick is cutting almost $100 million from its spending this year. Its new budget today calls for the government to cut 400 jobs as well as programs and services. But taxes aren't going up, And instead of a deficit, the province is predicting an annual surplus of $68 million. And the province that has led the way in slashing government spending brought in more plans for cutbacks today. Again, no new taxes. But Alberta's new budget means people will be paying more for health care. Joy Melvin reports on a budget that goes from a surplus to a deficit.
Alberta hit the jackpot. A windfall from lotteries and a gush of gas and oil revenues means a surplus, the first time in a decade.
This year's surplus is like winning a lottery. We got lucky.
But the government isn't banking on luck, and instead of balancing the books, Ralph Klein's government will continue to slash spending and jobs, projecting a deficit of $500 million.
Yes, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough sell.
Canada's cost-cutting cowboy admits it will be tough, especially since his government is tucking away some $400 million to protect itself from fluctuating oil and gas prices, while hacking away at government programs.
They don't have to cut this fast to meet the targets set out under the Act.
The cuts have only just begun. They've only been in place for about 6 months, really, in this province, and many of them have yet to be affected. Now he's doubling health care cuts.
Since 1993, the Klein government has closed hospitals and cut kindergarten funding. This time, healthcare took the biggest hit, bearing the brunt of $478 million in spending cuts.
Healthcare that I certainly knew that existed in this province is rapidly deteriorating. We are dismantling healthcare in this province.
For Albertans, it will be one more year of sacrifice, one more year of spending cuts. But Ralph Klein guarantees a balanced budget next time around. Some would argue good timing for the Premier, who could use the good news to call an election. Joy Melvin, CTV News, Edmonton.
The Bank of Canada was pushing up interest rates again today for the second week in a row. The bank rate rose to 8.38% at its weekly setting, up 0.3 of a point. And at least one of the big banks, the Royal, boosted lending rates, increasing its prime to 9.5%. That's up 0.25 of a point. Still to come in tonight's news, a possible answer to one of the biggest mysteries at the O.J. Simpson murder trial. How one killer could slay two victims.
In the walk-in closet, top of the master bedroom.
Introducing the new Mercury Mystique. It has available all-speed traction control, a Micron air filter that removes dust and pollen, and a 24-valve Duratec V6 engine that goes 160,000 kilometers before its first scheduled tune-up. Yet even though Mystique is equipped like a luxury car, it's priced thousands of dollars less. Because the last time we looked, money still didn't grow on trees. Drive the all-new Mercury Mystique.
It's happening in a major way. Canada's best-selling brand of major appliances have gone on sale. It's the Kenmore Major Appliance Sale at Sears. Now's the time to save on over 125 different Kenmore Major Appliances. And if you use your Sears card, don't pay till October 95. Plus earn major Sears Club points. And all Kenmore appliances come with the Kenmore commitment. So come to Sears and get a major deal on a major appliance. Sale ends March 1st.
Ah, boy, it must be another Kenmore sale. Look at that. Expect more from Sears.
A veteran Montreal crime reporter is under police protection tonight after being shot in both legs. Robert Monestès had been investigating the turf war between rival motorcycle gangs in the city. He was returning to his home last night when shots rang out from a speeding car. Police say they have no suspects. And Quebec is considering a major prison shutdown. According to a leaked report, 8 of its 24 prisons could close over the next 3 years. It's supposed to save $45 million. The government also wants to reduce the number of people serving time for minor offenses, such as speeding. A new tactic by the prosecution today at the O.J. Simpson double murder trial. Prosecutors put a police investigator on the stand to try and answer the defense question, how could one killer have murdered both Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman? ABC's Bill Rediker has that story.
By reviewing photographs and diagrams of the murder scene and the victims' bodies, Detective Tom Lang indicated that he believed that Nicole Simpson was the first victim to be attacked. Lang testified that he came to that conclusion after discovering that there was no blood on her feet.
It would indicate to me that the victim was more than likely struck before there was any blood that that flowed and perhaps went down initially before the fight really ensued with the other victim, and obviously didn't walk through the blood during the struggle.
During the preliminary hearing, the coroner testified that a large bruise mark was found on Nicole Simpson's head.
But there was a bruise on the right side of the scalp.
Legal analysts say the prosecution is trying to show that it was possible for only one person to have committed both murders.
Once again, the prosecution is trying to defuse the defense theory that there must have been two or more assailants to have killed these two people. The prosecution is suggesting that Nicole Brown was already unconscious before Ron Goldman ever arrived.
Prosecutor Clark tried to bolster the one assailant theory by showing pictures of the cramped quarters where the victims' bodies were found, indicating it would be difficult for more than one killer to occupy the space between them.
And what was the distance between the forehead of Ron Goldman and the top of the head of Ms. Brown?
4 feet 10 inches.
Prosecutors are trying to convince jurors that since Nicole Simpson was knocked out first, whoever committed the double murders would not have had to struggle with two people at once. Once again, prosecutors tried to support their theory that Nicole Simpson was the intended target and that Ron Goldman was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Los Angeles.
After a short period of relative calm, the war is back on in the breakaway Russian Republic of Chechnya. Russian forces launched large-scale attacks today on the capital of Grozny and outlying areas. All roads leading to the capital have been cut. The Russians are now demanding unconditional surrender. The Chechens insist on Russian withdrawal, vowing to keep on fighting for as long as it takes. An estimated 24,000 civilians have already died in the 10-week-old conflict. The U.S. threw Mexico a multi-billion-dollar lifeline today. Canadian banks and businesses are heaving sighs of relief. But will bailing out the pesos save Mexico from drowning in red ink? That story coming up.
What happens when a car offers the comfort of a luxury car and the performance of a sports car? What happens when the same car can outmaneuver expensive European sedans while getting the gas mileage of a four-cylinder compact? This is what happens. Presenting Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year, the Maxima from Nissan.
Your children don't smoke and they don't want to. But when your home fills with secondhand smoke, they don't have a choice. Instead, every innocent breath they take eats away at them, causing asthma, bronchitis, eye, nose, and throat problems, chronic ear infection, and an increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome. No amount of secondhand smoke is safe.
This Valentine's Day and every heartfelt Tuesday night in February, Soxtel's special moments bring you closer to the ones you love. With 60% off.
Brakes to tune-ups. Under your car or under your hood, Canadian Tire has you covered because we have licensed technicians specially trained to perform each job, all with the experience that comes from servicing over 10,000 cars every day. And we install only quality parts backed by a nationwide guarantee. So when your car needs service, come to the place with the parts, the warranties, and the specialists you can trust to get the job done right. Canadian Tire. There's a lot more for your car for a lot less.
Hey, I'm one full-sized adult, so naturally, I'm big on nutrition. And there's something inside of me that still gets really pumped about frosting. But who's kidding who? This body's a shrine, and we limit the fat and salt in the shrine. I'm lighten up.
Relax. With Kellogg's Mini Wheat Cereal, you can have it both ways. For the adult in you, whole grain wheat, low in fat and no added salt. For the kid in you, lightly frosted, great taste.
Hey, I'm no dumbbell. I know what I like. The frosting.
Last night we told you about a Polish man with the AIDS virus who was granted refugee status in Canada in 1991. Arthur Lasha claimed that he was persecuted in Poland because he was a homosexual with AIDS. But he later admitted in a radio interview that he came to Canada because he couldn't get medical treatment in his homeland. Lasha, who had been living on welfare in Montreal, died last month of AIDS. The United States and Mexico signed a multi-billion-dollar agreement today. It's designed to loosen the financial noose tightening around Mexico's economy. Both countries hope this deal will calm fears among Canadian and other foreign investors and serve as a lifeline for Mexico's sinking peso. But CTV's Jim O'Connell says it's still too early to say whether the plan will succeed.
The U.S. bailout package is a desperate attempt to salvage the Mexican economy, which has been in a state of chaos since December.
We begin today the critical work of helping Mexico restore its economy. It will not happen overnight, nor will it be easy.
Mexico has been in a fiscal mess since the value of the peso collapsed. To prevent a further decline, the United States is offering tens of billions of dollars in loans and loan guarantees.
I think we did the right thing, and I believe it very strongly, and I think that time will bear us out.
In return, Mexico has put up oil revenues as collateral and has promised tough reforms to fix its hemorrhaging economy.
This program will only work, if Mexicans put all their efforts, to overcome this very difficult situation.
There was no celebration on the Mexican stock market, which took a nosedive after the bailout was announced. With inflation running wild and interest rates as high as 50%, Mexico is on economic life support, and some fear the crisis could spread to other developing nations, posing a serious threat to investment and trade.
There's going to be more pain than pleasure in Ottawa and Washington over this whole debacle of the peso.
Under the North American Free Trade Agreement, American and Canadian businesses have a huge stake in the Mexican economy, and that's one of the main reasons the United States came to the rescue. But many observers believe this bailout is simply too little, too late. Jim O'Connell, CTV News in Washington.
Steve Fawcett has earned himself a place in aviation history, right up there with Charles Lindbergh. Lindbergh was the first to fly solo across the Atlantic, and Fawcett, a 50-year-old stockbroker from Chicago, has successfully crossed the Pacific. He did it on his own in a hot air balloon, landing tonight in Saskatchewan. Fawcett left Seoul, South Korea 3 days ago and landed about 150 kilometers northwest of Swift Current this evening. Along with being the first to fly solo over the Pacific, he broke a world distance record. This was a joint U.S.-South Korean effort. It marks the 50th anniversaries of the U.S. victory over Japan in the Second World War and South Korea's independence from Japanese rule. There aren't too many people around like Jeanne Calmet. In fact, there's no one else. She was around before the telephone was invented. She watched the Eiffel Tower go up, and today she set a record as the world's oldest person. Calment turned 120, earning her a spot in the Guinness Book of Records. She says her mischievous wit is the key to her long life. Calment only gave up smoking 3 years ago and was still riding a bicycle at 100. As a young girl, she sold colored pencils to the painter Vincent van Gogh, recalling that he was rude and smelled of alcohol. Calment is now blind, almost deaf, and confined to a wheelchair, but says her life has been filled with happiness. When we return, who says there are no Canadian heroes?
Everybody wants your RSP money, right? But who's in your corner? At Regal Capital Planners, investment advice is our only business. We shop the mutual fund markets to bring you the world and then make that information available to you at no cost. So, who's in your corner?
Call any one of our financial advisors nearest you.
Regal Capital Planners, over 25 years of professional money management in action.
Introducing the new Accord V6. New from Honda, the V6 redefined.
Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day.
Watch for falling prices at Walmart, all over the store. Always low prices, always Walmart. Always.
This Valentine's Day and every heartfelt Tuesday night in February, Saxtel's special moments bring you closer to the ones you love. With 60% off Saxtel long-distance calls to anywhere in Canada. It's just one more way we're working hard to keep your long-distance costs low. So touch someone's heart this Tuesday night, only with Saxtel's special moments.
In cold February, a statistic to warm the heart of every Canadian. Before the breakup of the former Soviet Union, Canada was officially the coldest nation on Earth. Now, however, Russia has overtaken us as winner of the Cold War, with an average annual temperature of minus 5.2 degrees Celsius. Canada's is minus 4.4. 30 years ago, an obscure Canadian English professor stunned the world with a simple 5-word sentence. The medium is the message. This simple phrase turned Marshall McLuhan into a major cult figure and changed the way we see the world. Now there is a so-called new McLuhan who is developing a following in Europe and the U.S., but is virtually unknown in his home country, Canada. CTV's Mark Schneider takes a look at the latest cult hero of the new society.
Arthur Croker in San Francisco, prophet, poet, rock musician.
Desire has got it all wrong. Maybe it's about text, no sex. Text, no sex.
Arthur Croker, mild-mannered Canadian professor, is making it big in the States and among its leading interpreters of American culture.
Arthur's quite amazing.
Kathy Acker, novelist, writer for the women's magazine Elle and the New York Times.
He's one of the people who's helping to develop a new language so that we'll know how to navigate this new world.
The human species is literally coming to an end, and we're being fed as fast as possible into the rendering machines of virtualization, into real digitization of flesh.
Say what?
Thanks very much.
His words obscure, but his fans effusive.
Arthur Croker is clearly the prophet of the ages, of the age.
I don't think he'll be running for president in '96 or anything, but who knows? Anything's possible these days.
The wonderful thing about Croker is he's quite clearly aware of the fact that humanity is now evolving into a completely different species, and one which is now part flesh and part data.
I was a little shocked because I'd really prepared myself.
Oh, hi, Moira. How are you? Nice to see you.
Moira Gunn hosts the popular nationwide radio show and was a little worried.
And I thought, okay, who knows what I'm going to find in the hallway? My golly, rock band and this kind of thing. All these people are saying it's difficult to describe who Arthur Croker really is.
Who is Arthur Croker? First, a professor of political science at Concordia University, a writer of controversial books, such as Data Trash, and a new philosopher who believes that electronic technology, like this radio show, is profoundly changing our human species.
Well, the electronic self always likes to feed itself on television. In fact, television is the memory that the electronic self has. The JFK assassination, the landing on the moon.
And you're saying that we don't know the difference between what we've actually experienced and what we've seen on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. I don't think there is a difference. By virtue of being born as, being born digital, we are really fully electronic creatures. And I don't mean that we've got data suits on. I don't mean that we're bionic man or anything of the sort. I mean something even much more grisly, and that is that the technology has come inside of us in the form of almost a flesh-eating virus that takes possession of our memories, that takes possession of our intelligence, that takes possession, in fact, of the way that we speak.
You might think of Arthur Croker as a kind of archaeologist, not uncovering our past, but digging up the ruins of our future. As he would say, virtual reality is grisly yet bloodless stuff. The hands of black Americans becoming Japanese warriors. And a young Canadian professor racing towards a non-existent finish line at the end of human history. for CTV's New Society, I'm Mark S. at whimsy.com.
That's kind of day has been on this February the 21st. Tomorrow on Canada AM. Back on center stage, Bloc Québécois leader Lucien Bouchard talks about his life-threatening illness and the future of Quebec. And on CTV News tomorrow night, second debut at 2,400 years of age. Archaeologists unearth a mystery lady in Siberia. I'm Lloyd Robertson for all of us here at CTV News. Good night.
CTV News, Canada's most watched newscast. William Shatner's Tech War. The future will be televised Thursday on CTV.
Tomorrow, tune in at 9 for Law & Order at its new time on CFUC TV.
Environment Canada's Eco logo has been awarded to 7 water-conserving products, 14 reusable shopping bags, 20 mercury-free batteries, 30 recycled paper stationery products, but to only 1 gasoline in Western Canada. Cleaner-burning, ethanol-blended gasoline made from prairie grain. Only at Mohawk, Mother Nature's gas station.
Thousands worldwide are now smiling. They're enjoying life with less dependency on glasses and contact lenses. Discover the new options for correcting your vision. Laser surgery for nearsightedness. For more information, phone the Gimbal Eye Center today.
Not surprisingly, wheat farmers prefer the Puma on the left. Puma plus your favorite broadleaf herbicide. For your worst weeds, all you have to do is unleash it.
After introducing the very friendly, very quick, and very safety-conscious 4-door Neon, we thought you'd get a kick out of this little number. Say hello to the Neon Sport Coupe, if you can catch it. Neon, available in regular and new extra spicy. Now at your Dodge and Plymouth dealers.